Hello, my name is Javier Ramos Hernandez, and I study math in course Language and Culture. And for this activity, I have the opportunity to interview a Ransom, that he is a Spanish. Ransom, thank for your time to be here and interview with me. And I have a question. Where do you work in the United States?
I work at a small high school in a small town called Sutherland High School.
Okay. Do you teach Spanish in that school?
Yes, I teach Spanish, basic Spanish, and also a weightlifting class, fitness class.
Okay, thanks. And the other question is, what do you think is the relation between language and culture?
I think it is a close relationship because to a certain extent, language limits our thinking, or I should say, it directs our thinking in a certain way.
Okay. The other question, what is the influence of culture in the process of a foreign language process?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What is the influence of culture in the process of a foreign language process?
Okay. The influence of culture is, I'm thinking about the differences between American English and British English. And the languages, it's the same language, but the values of the British culture, you can hear them in the language, in what kind of vocabulary they use. And in American English, we are not as refined. So you can hear that in our English. Of course, this is very general. There are always individual exceptions.
Okay, thanks. The other question is, which cultural expression do you know countries through language?
Oh, in English or Spanish or any language?
Name.
Any language? Well, I think in Colombia, for example, you have many sayings, dichos. You have many sayings that are very common. And I think this is very wonderful. For example, el hombre propone, Dios dispone, la mujer descompone. It's funny. In English, we have sayings like idioms. They're called idioms. A drop in the bucket. Literalmente es una gota en el bote. And it means just a little tiny bit of something. So there are many different sayings in both languages. We also say, one moment, please.
Lo siento, los chinos se perdieron.
Yeah. we have a saying. It is a chip off the old block. This means es un pedacito de ladrillo. It's like saying de tal palo, tal astilla. Or, yeah, there. Those are some examples.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. It's great that culture has a big relation with the language because it's a part of the culture. The other question is, why do you think it's important to have an oral tradition in a country?
There are many reasons why I believe it is important. The first reason is our own personal identity is combined with our experience of the language. When we are children, and when we grow up, if we remember, we can hear our grandparents' voices. We can hear what words they used. This is a part of our identity. And they pass the culture and the values from their generation to our generation with these words. So these words are our vehicles. They are our tools for communicating those important things from the culture. And I think we feel that identity and we identify with those words in a deep way. I think when you learn a new language, the new language is special, but your first language is the deepest for you, like your heart language, you know.
Thanks. And the other question is, what do you think, do we teach language using culture, or do we teach culture using language?
Oh, that's a tricky question. Do they teach language using culture or culture teaching language? Well, I think obviously both, but I think you teach culture a little bit more using the language, because I think culture is a hierarchy of values of some things compared to another culture's hierarchy of values. So I think you teach the culture with that language, but you focus more on culture, and that helps people understand the value of the language more. I think you emphasize culture a little bit more.
Okay, thanks. And the last question is, do you take count culture in the strategies you use in your Spanish classes? Can you give me an example?
Of how I teach culture in my Spanish classes?
Yeah, you use a strategy to teach or something that can help you to teach the subject.
I sometimes at the beginning of a unit, a new language unit, I want to contextualize my students with the different perspectives about something. First, I tell a story. For example, how you greet each other in Spanish-speaking cultures. I was an exchange student in Chile, and in Chile and El Cono Sur, you greet people with a kiss. I would greet a woman with a kiss on the cheek and hug. And with the men, I greet them, I grab their arm, and I shake, and I give a hug. This is common and standard in Chile. So I tell my students a story about my first day in Chile, about my experiences with kissing and hugging people, and everyone here, that my gringo students, they laugh because it's different here. You don't kiss someone you don't know here in the United States. So I use this to explain that the way you express well-being, bienestar, no? Well-being with others is different in some South American countries. Then I teach them different expressions of how to say, how are you, good afternoon, nice to see you, nice to meet you, all of these things in Spanish, so they understand that you use those things in a little bit different way, that they have a certain translation in the dictionary, but how you use them is a little bit different than you would in the United States. Does this answer that question?
Well, thanks. I know that it's very important to talk about different stories, different experience that people have in other culture, as you said, that contextualize the students. Well, it's great to have the opportunity to interview, and I learned a lot about your experience and your comments about language and culture. Thanks for your time, and I see you in other interview. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. That was good.